we're going to talk to our high schoolers about healthy relationships, also pizza. Hi, I'm Nadine Thornhill, sexuality educator. Welcome back to Safe Sex Ed, the series where I teach every sex education module from Ontario's 2015 Health and Phys Ed curriculum. If this is your first time here, welcome. Sometimes I have difficulty pronouncing really simple words. And if you are returning, welcome back. You know that sometimes I have difficulty pronouncing super simple words. If you want to learn, if you want to learn more about the series, you can click on the eye above me. And if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, you can click on the button down below, unless you have already subscribed to the channel, in which case you can't click on the button, but thank you for being here and thank you for subscribing. The Health and Phys Ed curriculum for grades 9 through 12 outline the following learning objectives for grade 10. Describe factors influencing sexual decision-making. Demonstrate an understanding of how to use decision-making and communication skills effectively to support choices related to responsible, healthy sexuality. For this activity, you are going to need access to YouTube, and because you're here, I'm assuming you have it in some capacity. You're also going to need a lot of pizza menus, like 30 or so. So if you're like me, you have a whole bunch in a drawer in your kitchen, or you can go to a local pizza shop and they will probably have some that they can give you. For the first part of the activity, you are going to watch Al Vernacchio's TED Talk, Sex Needs a New Metaphor. Here's one. So that TED Talk is available here on YouTube. Al Vernacchio is a brilliant sex educator based out of the United States. And in his talk, he explains that the metaphor we often use for sex, which is baseball, is problematic because it frames sex as competitive. You know, there's a winner and a loser. It is very restrictive and directive. You know, you have to round the bases in a certain order. There's a certain batting order. The game has to follow certain very specific rules. It also frames sex as obligatory. Once you start playing, you have to finish the game. Al proposes using a different metaphor for sex, which is pizza. Pizza is collaborative. We don't compete at pizza. There is no winning at pizza. There is sharing of the pizza. Pizza is highly customizable and there are infinite options. There is no one way we have to have our pizza. You know, we can have any combination of toppings, any size, any type of crust. Finally, pizza is optional. Once we start eating the pizza, we can have as much or as little of it as we want. After you've watched the video with your students, have them break off into pairs. Now, depending on the number of students in your class, you may have to have one group of 3, which is totally fine. And explain that you are going to explore this idea of using pizza as the metaphor for partnered sex. Once everyone has found a partner or partners, ask your class what is the first thing that we do if we want to share a pizza with someone. The answer is that we ask or we invite them. So have your partners go through this activity. Have them take turns asking the other person, would you like to have pizza with me? Now the person who is being asked is free to respond however they like. They can say yes, they can say no, they can say I'm not sure. They can also, practice asking in different ways. They can see how it feels to ask, looking right at someone. They can see how it feels to ask, maybe if they're sitting side by side but not really facing someone. And ask them to sort of talk to each other about how that feels, how it feels to ask, how it feels to give an answer, how it feels to say yes, how it feels to say no. So give them a few minutes to just sort of explore this asking phase. For the next part of the activity, tell the class that you're going to assume that everyone has agreed that they are going to share a pizza. Now what happens? Well, each person has to decide what they want. How do they decide what they want? Well, they have to consider their options. And how do we do that while we're ordering pizza? We look at a menu. So this is the part of the exercise where you're going to hand out those pizza menus. So give one to every person, or if you don't have enough, you can give one to every pair or triad. Now that each group knows what their options are, how are they going to decide what to order? This is the part where they're going to need to communicate with each other. So they may talk, they may point to different, ingredients or options on the menu. There may be some negotiating. Give the group, 5 to 7 minutes to actually make some decisions about what type of a pizza they would like to share. Once everyone has chosen an order, ask them what decisions did they have to make in order to come to an agreement. They would have had to likely make a decision about the size of pizza, the type of crust, the type of toppings, and also the distribution of toppings, because sometimes one person wants an ingredient, another person doesn't, so you might have an ingredient on one half of the pizza and not on the other. Now ask your class, when the pizza arrives, what decision does each person get to make for themselves? First of all, each person gets to decide for themselves whether they're still hungry or whether they're still in the mood for pizza. Sometimes you order a pizza and you're like, actually I don't really want the pizza. So they get to decide if they actually want to eat some pizza. If they do decide they want to eat the pizza, each person gets to decide, what their experience is around eating the pizza. Hopefully it's delicious for everybody, but someone might be like, hey, you know what? I am not really loving this pizza, at all. And finally, each person gets to make a decision about whether or not they want to continue eating the pizza or how much pizza they want. One person may be like, I'm just gonna have a slice or a half a slice and I'm done. Another person might be like, I'm going to eat as much pizza as is available to me because I am super into it. The final question for this part of the activity is, what does each person get to decide for the other person while sharing a pizza? The answer is nothing. You get to decide nothing. You are sharing the pizza, but you do not get to tell or decide what the other person's experience with that pizza will be. You get to decide what your experience of the pizza will be. Use this experience to draw the analogy to sharing sex with a partner. If we want to have sex with someone else, well, first we ask or we invite them. If they say yes, we each have to decide what we want out of that sexual experience. Then we need to communicate with each other and decide how we are going to have a mutually pleasurable sexual experience. And when sex is imminent, each person gets to decide for themselves if they still want to have sex. And if they do, they get to decide how they feel about the sex. They get to decide if they want to continue and if they want to stop. In a pizza situation, if one person wants to stop eating and one person wants to continue eating, well, that's what happens. One person stops, the other person just keeps eating slices of pizza. In a sexual situation, the same thing can happen. If one person wants to stop and one person is, still aroused and still wants a sexual experience, the person who wants to stop can stop. The person who would like to continue can masturbate. Masturbate is a form of having sex. It's having sex with yourself. It can be amazing. So that is an option if you want to continue the good time sexy feels. Finally, no one gets to make decisions for their partner about how that other person should feel about the sex or whether or not that other person needs to continue with sexual activity. Those are decisions that each partner gets to make for themselves. Pizza is not culturally relevant or appealing to everyone, so you can feel free to substitute something else for pizza if you're doing this exercise. Any kind of food will work. Just make sure it's something where there are a lot of available options. If you want to do this exercise at home, you can simply, watch the TED Talk with your teens and talk about it afterwards. According to the Centers for Disease Control, a small but not insignificant percentage of youth have become sexually active with a partner by age 15 or grade 10. So if you are having this conversation with youth at home or outside of school setting, feel free to get into this topic earlier than recommended in the curriculum. If you want to dive even deeper into this topic, here are some questions you can ask your kids at home or your students. What do you think about the baseball metaphor versus the pizza metaphor? Are you familiar with any other cultural metaphors for sex or sexual activity? Why do people use metaphors to talk about sex? What do you think it would be like to talk to someone about sharing sex the way we talk about sharing food? In the description box below, I am going to leave a link to Al Vernacchio's video. I am also going to leave a couple links to something called a yes, no, maybe chart. So a yes, no, maybe chart is basically like a menu of sexual activity. You can go through it either on your own or with a partner, and you can sort of mark off, yes for the things that you're definitely interested in doing or trying with a partner, no for the things that you are not down for at all. You can mark down, maybe for the things you're like, it might depend on the situation. You can mark down other things like, I'm not sure, maybe you've never tried it, or you just don't know, or not applicable because this is a thing that involves body parts that I don't have, or it involves mobility that my body doesn't have, things like that. So there are tons and tons of these on the internet, but the two I'm going to link to are from Afrosexology and Scarletine.com because they are two of my favorites. In the comments below, let me know what is something you wished you had learned about making sexual choices when you were a teenager. That's all for now. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye.
You can help me continue creating free sex ed content by supporting me on Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you'll get access to all sorts of goodies, so head on over to patreon.com/Nadine Thornhill or click the link down in the description below.